The Bristle Shape drop-down menu, located in the Brush panel, is at the top of the Bristle Qualities list for a reason. It is the most important decision you can make in designing a brush. After that, it's just a matter of adjusting all the rest of the characteristics associated with these basic shapes. Let's take a look. Earlier, we talked about the iconic representations of flat and wide brushes in the preview panel. However, if we go down to the Bristle Qualities area of the brush panel, the shape pop-up also gives me access to the same set of bristle brush tips that we had talked about previously. And you'll see they're basically divided up into round and flat variations of the same 5 shapes. So you've got pointed brushes, you've got blunt brushes, curved brushes, angle brushes, and fan brushes. And you've just got a round and a flat variation of each of those 5 types. Let's look at just a few of them here. I'm going to start with the round point. And you'll see that this is a pointed brush. It's round, and I'm just holding it so we're kind of examining it in the 3D preview, rotating it. And basically, this brush will work based on pressure. So the harder I press, the more of that tip that's going to be smashed down against the canvas, which is going to change the basic shape. And it's doing this dynamically. And this is one of the reasons these brushes are so powerful, particularly in conjunction with a Wacom 6D pen, where I have control over all of the various attitude adjustments of this tip, and then based on pressure, what's happening when it's actually pressed against the canvas. If we take a look at the round blunt, you'll see that this, once again, is a round tip, and these brushes, the round tips, are particularly suited to working with non-barrel rotating pen tips. For example, the grip pen, which is the standard pen that ships with the Wacom tablet, is a non-barrel rotating pen. And you don't have the luxury of having this tip do a lot in terms of its shape by changing the aspect or the angle of it in your hand. If I go, for example, and get the flat blunt tip, you'll see that this tip has a narrow and wide aspect to it rather than being symmetrically round. So if I draw with the narrow aspect of this pen, I get a very narrow, thin line, whereas the wide aspect gives me a much broader mark. So one tip, again, is able to make a lot of variations based on what the artist's hand is doing with the stylus in their hand. Let's also take a look at the flat angle. This one shows you, once again, a flat aspect, but you can see here that if I use pressure very lightly, I'm only touching part of the tip to the surface. And as I bear down in pressure, that tip gets wider and wider because more and more of the entire brush shape is coming in contact with the canvas. And once again, this is why Wacom pens, particularly the art pen, makes such a good companion to the bristle tips. It gives you the ultimate control over the various shapes and things that can happen with these tips when they come in contact with the surface. The shape menu is a good place to begin when you're designing a brush. You can also take an existing brush and radically alter its expressive character by simply changing the shape.